Pol Pot, known as the orchestrator of one of the most horrific genocides in human history, was born Saloth Sar in 1925. Interestingly, he was not born into poverty or oppression, as some might assume. His family was relatively well off, with connections to the Cambodian royal court. This comfortable upbringing makes his descent into radicalism and brutality even more perplexing. As a child, young Saloth Sar was quiet, even timid. He excelled in his studies, eventually receiving a scholarship to study radio electronics in Paris. It was in Paris, amidst the intellectual ferment of the 1950s, that Saloth Sar was drawn to communist ideology. He joined the French Communist Party and became deeply involved in Marxist circles. It was here that he began to develop his radical beliefs that would later translate into the brutal policies of the Khmer Rouge. Upon returning to Cambodia, he adopted the nom de guerre Pol Pot and fully embraced the communist struggle. He joined the Khmer Viet Minh, a Cambodian communist movement, and rose through the ranks, becoming a key figure in the fight against the Cambodian government. Pol Pot's time in Paris was transformative. He was exposed to Marxist-Leninist thought and witnessed the struggles of the working class firsthand. These experiences shaped his worldview and fueled his desire for radical change. However, his interpretation of communist ideology was extreme and distorted. He envisioned a utopian agrarian society free from Western influence and modern technology. This vision, combined with his ruthless ambition, would have devastating consequences for Cambodia. The 1960s and early 70s were a turbulent time for Cambodia. The Vietnam War spilled over into Cambodian territory, destabilizing the country and fueling internal conflicts. The Cambodian government, under the leadership of Prince Norodom Sihanouk, struggled to maintain control. Sihanouk walked a tightrope, attempting to maintain neutrality while facing pressure from both the US and North Vietnam. This balancing act ultimately failed, leading to a coup in 1970 that ousted Sihanouk and installed a pro-American government. The coup, backed by the United States, further destabilized Cambodia and intensified the ongoing civil war. Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge seized upon this chaos, capitalizing on anti-American sentiment and the widespread yearning for stability. They presented themselves as a nationalist force, fighting for the liberation of Cambodia from foreign influence. Their propaganda, coupled with the brutal realities of war, resonated with the Cambodian people, particularly those in rural areas who bore the brunt of the conflict. The Khmer Rouge's ranks swelled with new recruits, drawn by promises of a better future. The Khmer Rouge's ideology, however, was far more radical and sinister than their nationalist rhetoric suggested. Pol Pot's vision for Cambodia was one of an agrarian utopia, achieved through the complete eradication of modernity and the establishment of an austere communal society. This vision, rooted in a warped interpretation of Marxist-Leninist thought, would become the driving force behind the horrors that were to come. As the Khmer Rouge gained strength, their grip on Cambodia tightened, setting the stage for one of history's darkest chapters. On April 17, 1975, the Khmer Rouge marched into Phnom Penh, the Cambodian capital, signaling the beginning of a reign of terror that would last for almost 4 years. The city's inhabitants, accustomed to the relative comforts of urban life, were ill-prepared for the horrors that awaited them. The Khmer Rouge, driven by their radical ideology, immediately set about transforming Cambodia into their envisioned agrarian utopia. This transformation, however, came at a horrifying cost. City dwellers were forcibly evacuated, driven into the countryside to work as laborers in collective farms. These evacuations were marked by brutality and chaos, with families separated and individuals subjected to inhumane treatment. Intellectuals, artists, professionals, and anyone deemed a threat to the regime were targeted for elimination. Schools, hospitals, and other institutions were shut down as the Khmer Rouge sought to eradicate all traces of modernity and Western influence. The Cambodian people, stripped of their freedoms and identities, were subjected to forced labor, starvation, and systematic extermination. The Cambodian genocide, also known as the Killing Fields, was a meticulously planned and executed campaign of terror. The Khmer Rouge, under Pol Pot's leadership, implemented a system of control and surveillance that permeated every aspect of life. Children were separated from their families and indoctrinated with the regime's ideology, trained to spy on their own parents and neighbors. Torture, execution, and starvation became commonplace as the Khmer Rouge sought to eliminate any perceived threat to their power. The regime's brutality knew no bounds, leaving Cambodia a shattered nation, scarred by the wounds of unimaginable suffering. The Khmer Rouge's reign of terror finally came to an end in 1979, when Vietnamese forces invaded Cambodia and overthrew Pol Pot's regime. The Vietnamese intervention, though prompted by border clashes and the Khmer Rouge's own brutal policies, brought much-needed relief to the Cambodian people. The nightmare that had gripped the nation for almost 4 years was finally over. Pol Pot and his followers fled into the jungles of western Cambodia, where they continued to wage a guerrilla war against the Vietnamese-backed government. The downfall of the Khmer Rouge marked a turning point in Cambodian history. The nation, devastated by years of genocide and war, began the long and arduous process of rebuilding. The scars of the Khmer Rouge's brutality, however, ran deep. Millions had perished, families had been torn apart, and the country's infrastructure and institutions lay in ruins. The psychological trauma inflicted upon the Cambodian people would continue to haunt them for generations to come. Despite their defeat, the Khmer Rouge remained a potent force in Cambodian politics, continuing to wage guerrilla warfare and sow discord. Pol Pot, though no longer in power, continued to exert influence from his jungle hideout, orchestrating attacks and manipulating political events. The world, horrified by the scale of the Cambodian genocide, sought to bring the perpetrators to justice. The Khmer Rouge's legacy, however, continued to cast a long shadow over Cambodia, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the enduring power of hatred. Pol Pot died in 1998, escaping justice for the crimes he had committed against the Cambodian people. His death, however, did little to alleviate the suffering he had inflicted upon Cambodia. The legacy of his regime continues to haunt the nation, a stark reminder of the human capacity for cruelty and the devastating consequences of unchecked power. The Cambodian genocide stands as a testament to the dangers of ideological extremism and the importance of safeguarding human rights. The echoes of Pol Pot's terror can still be felt in Cambodia today. The country continues to grapple with the social, economic, and psychological scars left by his regime. Millions of landmines, remnants of the years of conflict, still litter the countryside, posing a constant threat to civilians. The trauma of the genocide has been passed down through generations, shaping the nation's collective memory and influencing its political landscape. The international community, once slow to respond to the horrors unfolding in Cambodia, has since taken steps to address the legacy of the genocide. The extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia, ECCC, a UN-backed tribunal, was established to bring those responsible for the genocide to justice. The ECC's work, though fraught with challenges, has provided some measure of accountability and contributed to the ongoing process of healing. The Cambodian genocide serves as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance, the need to confront hatred and intolerance, and the enduring responsibility to remember and learn from the past.